I'm Chimo Mangazi with Business Time on Times. It is a magazine program where we bring you business and economic news stories making headlines. In the program today, experts reiterate the need for enhanced investment to heal the local economy. Also in the program, we look at performance of the Malawi Kwacha in the third quarter of 2022. We have these and other stories. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome. Economic experts have reiterated the need for Malawi to broaden its tax base and make significant investments in mega farms and cannabis production to help heal the local economy. Recent to echo the sentiments is Associate Professor of Economics at the Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences, Bechani Chereni. He further highlighted that the International Monetary Fund does not hold answers to the troubled local economy. More in this report. Chereni was speaking recently in Blantyre during a panel discussion organized by the Malawi Economic Justice Network, MEGIN. He says the limited tax base and growing demand for public services attributable to the rise in the population have led to a rapid growing government fiscal deficit. He described continued reliance on International Monetary Fund as fiscal waterboarding, stressing the rise in public debt is an indication that Malawi needs to rethink and create better domestic resource mobilization by the public sector in order to reduce the public debt and meet its obligation of supplying public goods.
We went into austerity measures, and some of us have been asking the question to say, from the austerity measures, are we making any savings? If you're making the savings, how much? From those savings, maybe we can use some of those to go into some of these projects, because we have to be an investing nation. I'm also thinking about what the president talked about, the contracts of government officials, senior government officials. I'm thinking that there can be a lot of savings that can come out of there. Every saving that the government can make right now, it needs to be channeled towards investment. And some of those investments which are important are mega farms, the mining industry, in particular that mining company, we need it, and also the cannabis industry. We need to go into that because that's the lifeline. The lifeline is not the IMF. The lifeline is production. The lifeline is investment. It's not the IMF. So the IMF is here to simply assist us restructuring our debt and everything of that sort. So for me, I think that there are resources that we can tap from elsewhere. Cut on travels of senior government officials, cut on some of these insane contractual agreements that are there, incentives that are there. Cut on them, and let's try to see if we can. For you to have a machine, think about a tractor. Think about 3 tractors or 10 tractors. Maybe 1 month savings of the austerity measures can actually grant us to be able to buy those facilities. Yeah, look, there's what is referred to as a level 2 and level 1 of austerity measures. There's a level where you stop doing anything that can be classified as luxurious. And I think the Minister of Finance has alluded to that already. And my view is that we need to get to that level of austerity measures. Let's get there. Let's give ourselves, for example, 6 months. That in the next 6 months, nobody is traveling to that place, nobody is doing that, nobody is doing that. For 6 months. And then, for once, I think the most important thing is the reports. What is it that we are saving from there? Because from the austerity measures as they were announced, we are yet to see a report from there. Then if we go to the next level of austerity measures, we might have to see also a report. It is one thing to enter into austerity because IMF says do so if you're going to get this. And it's also another thing to enter into austerity because we want to do so. Let's for once enter into some kind of austerity because that's what we want. And once we do what we want, and we are focused on investments, we're going to get it right. No, look, the kind of supplies we need now are twofold. Number 1, machinery. Number 2, it's raw materials, if we don't have those raw materials. So machinery, in the sense that we want to make suits, what do we need? We need cotton, clothing, we need maybe machines and maybe other things that we need. If we want to be making tiles, what do we need? Let's buy that machine. Once we get that machine, we don't care who is giving us what or not. We don't care. All we need is to be a sovereign state. That's what we are looking at. Sovereignty is better when you are okay to say to have the muscle to negotiate at the table.
Megin Executive Director Betha Piri says the debt management in the government was far from impressive and they are geared to work with other stakeholders to address the challenge.
For the betterment of Malawi, also for us to be able to repay the debt. That is why we are actually in debt distress now. So PFM around debt management, pretty much that's what we were engaging to say. We must take to task people that matter, the parliament, the parliamentary committees, those that are at the stake to approve loan authorization bills, media like you to get to investigate, to say what have we been borrowing for and how much have we invested actually, so that we can point to say these are the resources that we got and the interest we are actually paying because we did ABCD with the resources. Yeah, so you recall that we are given a new window, the rapid credit facility, extended credit facility. That is again another issue that we shouldn't be celebrating at, because for how long will we be borrowing? That should be a question. How ready are we to actually embrace what IMF wants? These are but some resources that have restrictions. We want a bailout, and the whole purpose of the rapid extended credit facility is to restructure debt. So if you ask at Megin or many other views from civil society organizations, we are saying, can we broaden the domestic resource base? How much are we generating as a nation? We have the DRM strategic plan, the domestic resource mobilization strategic plan. How true are we actualizing the strategies put in place? There is a lot of income generating activities that go unaccounted for, that go untaxed, and so there are a lot of losses that we are doing. We are incurring system losses around tax resource generation through taxation and what have you. And again, there are a lot of economic activities that are happening. The current government talks about industrializing mining, but how much are we investing to make sure that the mining industry is actually industrialized and that we can actually get returns from that? So broadening the domestic resource mobilization is the way out.
According to the World Bank, between 2009 and 2017, the government debt as a percentage of GDP has grown from 29.27% to 55.15%, leading to an 88% increase in government deficit. Currently, the debt to GDP ratio stands at 63%. The Malawi Kwacha continues to fall against its major trading partner, the United States dollar. For example, during the third quarter, the Malawi Kwacha fell by an average of 96 Kwacha. Justin Nkweu has more in this report.
The Malawi Kwacha has been traveling in turbulent waters. Authorities have tried to save the currency, but still, it continues to fall against its major trading partner, the US dollar. According to figures from the Reserve Bank of Malawi 4th Monetary Policy Committee meeting, the Kwacha dropped by 0.04% for authorized Dira Bank's rate and 7.69% for Forex Bureau's exchange rate in the third quarter of this year. According to the statement, the Kwacha was trading at 1,033 Kwacha per US dollar, losing 43 tambala compared to the second quarter, that is for the authorized dealer banks. While for Forex bureaus, the figures show that during the period under review, the Kwacha was trading at 1,357 Kwacha per US dollar, losing 96 Kwacha 96 tambala against the preceding quarter. The statement adds that foreign exchange supply and demand imbalances persisted in the domestic market, resulting in further weakening of the Kwacha. The local unit, however, continues to lose its grip, as latest figures show that by October 26, the local currency was trading at an average of 1,400 Kwacha against the dollar, in the money bureaus and on the black market. The continued weakening of the currency goes against the reason it was devalued in May this year by 25%, a decision carried by the Reserve Bank of Malawi. RBM Governor Wilson Banda said the devaluation aimed at giving the currency its true value and aligning it with the then market trends, where the disparity between the black market rate and the official rate was big. In a recent interview, Banda insisted that the devaluation has stabilized the kwacha and it has served its purpose, but could not commit to another devaluation of the local unit.
It has worked towards achieving that objective, in that the currency has not collapsed. We still have the kwacha that is trading. We know the pressures on the market. We know demand for FX is very high. I mentioned in my speech the other day that our import bill is about 3 billion a year, and our export revenue is about a billion, with a gap of about 2 billion. So that puts pressure on the exchange rate, obviously. But in order to avoid creating a collapse in the currency, we have to find resources to fill that gap. We borrow internationally, and we've done that. We get loans and grants from international institutions such as the World Bank, the IMF, ADB, and others. We're getting some bilateral assistance. So that level of financial injection in FX is helping to keep the kwacha afloat. It's not a perfect environment, but things could have been worse. Yeah. So what we're saying right now is that we have some stability in the market, but things can only get better now. You know, as a governor, I cannot help you to speculate. Yeah, but what I can tell you is that there is stability in the market. Has it reached an equilibrium? It depends on what you are looking at and over what time horizon. Clearly, as governor, I cannot say the kwacha is overvalued or is undervalued. The kwacha is going to appreciate or tomorrow or depreciate tomorrow. I can't. I mean, the moment I do that, it will move the market. So all I can tell you and assure you is that we are watching that space very carefully. There are a number of things that are happening. You know, we have got issues on the ground. Fuel has been an issue. We have to import quite a number of things, medicines, we have to import fertilizers, etc. And that, all those things depend on availability of FX. So as a central bank, we're doing all we can to make sure that we keep that side of the market balanced.
The US dollar is Malawi's main trading currency, but its scarcity has heightened in recent months, sending the country into challenges that threaten the economy. For example, the country is struggling to import essential commodities such as fuel and medicines.
Speaker of Parliament Catherine Gotani Hara, who is also MP for Mzimba North East constituency, has called on stakeholders in the tobacco industry to investigate the welfare of farmers. She says this would be a step towards protecting them from any forms of ills they encounter. We have more in this report. Hara said this over the weekend during a media tour of some tobacco farms in her constituency, organized by one of the tobacco buying companies, JTI Leaf Malawi. She says farmers were raising concerns which needed to be ironed out through joint interventions.
From the questions that I've always heard from the farmers, there are quite a number of questions which, I honestly did ask JTI. For example, the loans in US dollars. They've complained of issues of classification of tobacco, that when Tobacco Control Commission classifies leaves of tobacco, the buyers themselves, which are JTI, will come and say, no, we think this is wrongly classified, and therefore instead of buying that particular leaf on a good price, they'll buy it at a cheaper price. And I also was asking JTI why they have to give each and every item in dollar term loans, which makes it heavy for the farmer, but they, of course, they had their own explanation to say no, they wanted to have standard output in terms of what tobacco comes out. So, for example, chemicals, they wanted to make sure if they're saying it's a 20-liter gallon that they're using for chemicals, it is indeed 20 liters, because I had those questions to say, why do you have to buy simple things, for example, like a jerry can for them, and you're charging them in dollars? And then there were other farmers who have complained that sometimes a farmer would say, I have my own inputs, all I want is your extension service and for me to be on your contract. But there are times that the growers have also issued their own concerns to say no, because we want everything standardized. We want you to come and buy from us. But then there's still so many other questions that I think we still need to inquire from most of the farmers, because if it's standardization, for example, on transportation of tobacco, you find the price maybe that they charged is not cheap, when I could have transported the tobacco maybe on my own at a cheaper price. But they have got their own explanations on why they want to sort of do the whole process. But I still feel that some of the processes, if they were better managed, the farmers themselves would make much more than maybe what they're making now. Of course, their claim is that no, they're making quite a bit more, but I think it would be important to do an analysis on all farmers, because obviously this is probably one of their best farmers. I'm sure there are others who might not have the same success story. So it's an interesting industry that I think needs all of us to look into, because we want the best for our farmers. Well, in terms of that, as you know, main responsibilities in the executive arm, I'm sure the Minister of Agriculture, Tobacco Control Commission are mandated to look into those, and if they bring in issues to Parliament, obviously the members of Parliament will discuss. But I do know that these are issues that are being discussed in our committees. I know there was a committee, I think a couple of weeks ago, that went round looking at the same issues. So it is a long process. It's not something that you can say you've got an answer today, because it involves you having a candid discussion with the farmers, with the buyers themselves, so that we find something that is right for them. As you know, it is in the law. Obviously, some of the things just can't change just like that, because we have got laws behind, but we need to continuously look at what is it that will benefit our farmer, which is the best option. So I'm not trying to say this is better, that is better, but what I'm saying is, can we do more just to find the best solution for our farmers?
JTI Malawi Corporate Affairs and Communications Director Limbani Kakome maintains that tobacco growing is profitable for the farmers. Tobacco remains the country's major foreign exchange earner. However, the industry has been declining, both in production and earnings. The Competition and Fair Trading Commission, CFTC, says the increase in the number of cases they are dealing with over the years illuminates how much consumers are understanding consumer affairs. It has transpired that the Commission is now handling over 280 cases from just 3 cases a decade ago. Apoche Itimu is CFTC Acting Executive Director.
I think we have seen some levels of compliance in certain areas, but we've also seen cases of violations in other areas. Where there have been violations, the Commission has conducted investigations and it's issued relevant penalties. Yes, the enabling legislation for the Competition and Fair Trading Commission is the Competition and Fair Trading Act. This was enacted in 1998, as you'd agree with me. It's well out of date. There are serious gaps that affect our ability to enforce competition and consumer welfare issues. So because of that, we thought it's very important that we review our law. We've developed a draft competition and fair trading bill and regulations as well that will contain procedures that will implement the substantive provisions under that bill. We will now be engaging external stakeholders. This will be done from next week on Monday, and we should be done by Friday. And I think some of the consultations also take place at the beginning of the following week. Okay, so I'll just give a few examples because there are several gaps. One of them is in terms of the jurisdiction of the Commission. Would want to have a greater impact to protect more consumers. So we find that the definition of a consumer is somewhat limiting, but also we want a wider ambit of the unfair trading practices. In terms of competition, we have some key definitions that are missing in the current legislative framework. But even when we look at mergers, international legislations on this will provide for thresholds, for example. We don't have thresholds in Malawi, so everyone who is going to undergo a merger is supposed to seek authorization from the Commission, but you'd want only certain mergers that would have a certain impact on competition to go through that authorization process. So these are just some of the things. And another key factor maybe is the penalties as well. Currently, we can issue a fine of 500,000 or the financial gain that one gets from violation. Again, you'd agree with me, 500,000 kwacha may have been a lot in 1998, but now in 2022, this needs to be revised. So these are some of the areas that we are seeking to review, and we'll be conducting consultations on these things. Okay, we had some cases of anti-competitive trade practices. We also had some unfair trading contracts, such as refusing to accept liability for defective products. We had some companies that did not implement some product recalls that were there, supply of products that were likely to cause injury or harm. We also had some cases of offer of prices without intending to supply those prices. So these are just some of the cases that we came across and that we handled. Absolutely. I mean, we've had increase in prices in several areas. Several commodities have gone up. In some instances, there have been suppliers that have taken advantage of consumers in the increase of prices. This has inadvertently also affected consumers. But also even in the discharge of our mandate, obviously there are cost implications to that. But we continue to ensure that we're enforcing the Competition and Fair Trading Act. We use several initiatives. We conduct advocacy programs, sensitization. We issue public notices where we need to regarding issues such as product recalls. We engage the business community where we receive cases of violations or complaints. We conduct investigations, we issue penalties, we issue cease and desist orders, and so many other remedies. So there are various initiatives that we're doing. We also conduct market surveillances. This could be in form of shop inspections, for example. And we conduct market inquiries and market studies as well.
With that item, we've come to the end of today's edition of Business Time. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, I am Chimwemwe Mangazi. But always remember, if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. Bye for now.